Yeah, morning and welcome to the second hour of Sunday Supplement. Really is so much more to talk about this morning, including Liverpool, Manchester United, West Ham United and tennis's battle of the sexes. Still with us are Mark Ogden, senior writer at ESPN, John Cross, chief football writer for The Mirror, and The Telegraph's chief football correspondent, Jason Burt. Right, let's get to Anfield and an emotional victory for Liverpool against Wolves. But we also saw, Jason, maybe signs that the real Florian Wirtz is turning up at Liverpool. In the Mail on Sunday, Lewis Steele says the 22-year-old has been on a special programme to bulk up to the intensity of English football, with Wirtz putting on around 2 kgs, hard shifts in the gym and finally paying dividends. And in this game, he looked 2 or 3 steps ahead of everyone else on the pitch. Of course, it is the team that is bottom of the league with only 2 points so far in Wolves. But is it a coincidence that maybe Florian Wirtz is showing this form? Mohamed Salah's not around?
Yeah, I wrote a piece a couple of weeks ago saying that Liverpool will eventually transition from being the Mohamed Salah team to the Florian Wirtz team. I think Wirtz is going to be that important to them. Not just because of, how good a player he can be, but also I think the way they want to use him. I think he's going to become their central player in terms of the building it a little around him. And obviously Isak is important to that as well. I know Ekitike is playing very, very well, but I think Isak was brought in to be that kind of combination with him and with Wirtz. And the comparison I draw is Luka Modric. So when Luka Modric first came to Tottenham, and Lewis obviously talks about having to bulk up a little bit, I think Modric for the first few months was regarded as quite lightweight. He couldn't keep up with the physicality and speed of the Premier League. Once he got to grips with that, brilliant player, absolutely fantastic world-class player, who obviously went on to join Real Madrid and became the fulcrum of that Tottenham team. I think that's probably the comparison that Liverpool are looking at. That's what they expect from Wirtz. They've invested so heavily into him. We know he's a credible talent. He's a similar sort of age to Modric when he first came to English football. So I think all of those pieces, and we're all guilty of it, we expect instant results from players. He's coming by a Leverkusen side where, again, it was built around him, into a Liverpool team in a certain degree of transition, in a slightly difficult moment in terms of the whole season as a whole. Obviously, you mentioned Diogo Jota. Cannot underestimate the importance of that. It's a difficult one to talk about, but we had obviously Virgil van Dijk talking about it just before the game. The effect that's had on the whole club and on the players and everything, and the change of the squad. And Wirtz is a big part of that. But I'm quite encouraged by Wirtz. I think he will get there. I think he will be the player they want him to be, and I think he will be that important to Liverpool, because they are starting to move on from Mohamed Salah. And we obviously saw with Salah, he might not come back from the African Cup of Nations. I think he probably will. I think it's more likely the next summer now he'll go to Saudi Arabia, but it's still a possibility that he'll go before then. I think it also depends on what sort of attitude he brings back with him. But the fundamental point is, I think it is moving away from him, this team. It is becoming more the Florian Wirtz team. Yeah, in the Sunday Telegraph, John, it says Wirtz off mark, but need for reinforcements is clear. It's bizarre saying that after a near £450 million spend. Do they need to go again in January?
Well, I tell you, the area where they do need to strengthen is defence, clearly. Losing Isak and then also, for a couple of months, and then obviously losing to Salah to the AFCON is going to test their resources up front. But I think that's a temporary thing. I think the more permanent thing is at the back.
I think they're short up front.
I think that basically also you concede against Wolves, who are now the worst team and made the worst start in 56 years in top flight. It's remarkable, isn't it, how a team can win so few points and then cause such little threat. It's remarkable, and yet they've still conceded, and it's 2-1. It doesn't look the most flattering scoreline, and basically 2-0, you go on and win it easily, but you're conceding, and the defence is still an issue for them, and trying to find that kind of unit. So I would say that that's the priority, really. They have got options up front, but this is a sort of a short-term thing, because once Isak comes back, if you are going to see Salah out until the end of the season, then, it's about getting them all in again. And they've made so many strengthenings, including Florian Wirtz, that I do think perhaps their priority needs to be defence. And I do think they probably, if they're going to challenge to get back in the Champions League places is their first target, and also to make the automatic qualification of the Champions League and progress in the Champions League, then I think their defence will have to be stronger.
It is 7 unbeaten though, Mark, in all competitions for Liverpool. Is it a corner being turned, or too early to say that?
I think it is. And I think that run coincides with Salah being dropped, doesn't it? Now, Salah's been a great player for Liverpool, one of, maybe top 3 or 4 in the club's history, but he's not the most selfless player. And I think he hasn't really helped the likes of Isak and Wirtz settle in, because everything goes through him. He doesn't, put a shift in sometimes. He's not there now, so it's given Wirtz the chance to blossom a little bit. Last week against Tottenham, we kind of forget that he created the goal for Isak, because Isak was injured in the goal, that he's kind of overshadowed how much of a role Wirtz played in that. So I think there is a kind of evolution now. Certainly going forward, Liverpool are better, but at the back they are, as the guys say, they're really, really vulnerable. Konaté's out of contract in the summer. I don't think he's going to get a new contract. He's going to go. Even if Konaté and Van Dijk stay fit, they're still very, very vulnerable there, because Konaté's not playing well. And Van Dijk's had his moments as well. So they need to bring somebody in. But it's where do you go? Who do you get? I don't think Mark Gueye is going to want to leave Palace now, because he's going to be a free agent in the summer with a lot of options. So Liverpool missed the boat there. They really missed the chance to get Gueye in. So they're going to have to find somebody, because they are one injury away from a defensive crisis. Because Joe Gomez is the kind of the guy that fills in, but again, he's not relied upon to be fit. So they need to strengthen defensively. I agree with John and Jason in terms of up front. They've got plenty of options. Once Isak's back and once Salah's back.
Up front.
Yeah, but they are at the moment.
I think they need one more forward.
They are at the moment, but
you forget how many people left. An awful lot of players left.
When Salah comes back mid-January, I think he has to come back now, Salah, because with Isak being out until March, they can't let Salah go now. Even if they wanted to, they can't let him go in January.
Will they start with him though? I'm not sure they'll start with him. I think
that creates another problem, doesn't it?
You're talking about 6 or 7 unbeaten. You can see that Arne Slot wants to play differently, and it's not a coincidence that Salah's out of the team, because they are working that bit harder. Even in the Brighton game recently, in terms of defensive work, he's not a liability, but he doesn't do the work that you want him to do. Chelsea talked about it openly, didn't they? They played him behind him.
He is a
all the
liability
time.
Defensively. He is, because in the past they had people like Trent behind him who would actually do what he wanted him to do.
Or you had Jordan Henderson coming over.
He had people who would cover for him, but now they've got different. Darwin Núñez would do the running. He would have a different set of players who would compensate for his weaknesses, but they aren't there anymore, and Salah's not changing his game to accommodate that. I think there's a PSV Eindhoven game where PSV scored a goal and Salah just gave up. He absolutely gave up. He didn't even chase back, and it's not the first time that's happened.
They are short up front then.
But no, I'm saying that Salah's a liability defensively, but when he comes back, he will still offer a goal threat. But it does complicate matters by the fact that...
But the point I'm making is I'm not sure Slot wants him in the team because he doesn't do that work.
No, you're right, I agree with that, but because Isak's injured, they can't afford to let Salah go in January now, because Isak, if he comes back, best case scenario, beginning of March? If he has a setback, it could be end of March, mid-April, so it'd be reckless to let Salah go now.
He isn't going to come back in March and hit the ground running, is he? We saw at the start of the season, he's not been fit at all. So they almost have to write this season off.
So there has to be a compromise with Salah. He has to come back, but like you say, if he's not playing...
He's not going to suddenly run back then, is he?
Oh, no, but this is the problem you've got. It's like, he's not going to be happy if he's not on the team anyway.
So it's a real problem
so it's a managing situation whereby Slot and the people above Slot have to say to Salah, look, you've got to just...
That's why I think it's quite important. If they bought an attacker in the January window, they could almost have that situation where they say, look, we will be brave enough to leave him out. And I think the problem is if he comes back and they need him and he has to play, then it disembalances the team again the way that the manager wants to play. That's why I'm surprised that they've kind of like fallen back in the race for Semenyo, because I think Semenyo would have been perfect for them personally. And it looks like obviously he's got to Manchester City. I was surprised when I heard that Liverpool had seemed to have cooled their interest, because I think they do need another striker and they've got the money. It's not they spent an awful lot of money in the summer, but they brought a lot of money in as well. And people talk about, can they afford to do it in PSR? Yes, they can, because they didn't spend the previous summer before either, did they? So they've got plenty of cash. They need a centre half. They need a forward, definitely 100% the January window.